Hi, welcome to the second tutorial of session 5. In our first tutorial, we discussed about 5 areas on how to write your research or literature review. It was planning, reading, analyze, draft and revise. In our first tutorial, we covered both planning and reading, and today let's look at analyzing your research. The first question is, how do I assess existing research? And we mentioned this earlier also, a literature review is not just a list of studies that has been done or just a description of the previous studies. You need to build a story or you need to build an argument related to your research topic. So it's not about bringing pieces of literature randomly, but selecting the right pieces you need to build your story. So when you look at analysis, we typically look at 4 areas. First one is summarizing, second one is synthesis, third one is compare, and the fourth one is critique. Just to give an example, summarizing means all what others have said, you make it very brief and summarize into small paragraphs so that the previous work can be presented in a very concise way. Synthesize means you take two or more authors and try to combine their work together and say these two authors have spoken about this area. Compare means, for example, if you take project quality, author A and author B, they have spoken about project quality and these are the similarities and these are the differences in their studies. And finally, critique means what are the shortcomings, what are the issues, or what are the potential gaps in this research. For example, the concept of project quality has been studied in a European context but not so much in an Asian context. Or the concept of multicultural project teams have been studied in B2B sector and not so much in B2C sector. Now let's look at in more detail about these 4 areas, starting with summary and synthesis. When you summarize, you look at different authors and you bring their views, ideas to a concise few paragraphs. Here you will look at what are the key arguments, what are the key characteristics, what is the summary of their concepts or key findings. And when you look at synthesis, you're looking at two or more authors, what they have done around the subject area. So if you see the colored box on the right hand side, you use words like demonstrated and also you use the word and to combine two authors. So these are some examples of summary and synthesis, and if you read these two paragraphs you will see certain characteristics of summarizing and synthesizing literature. On your right hand side you will see in synthesis names of few authors appearing because you have combined their views. So the next step is looking at comparison and critique. Here you're evaluating strengths and weaknesses of work. What are the differences and similarities of different pieces of literature? And especially when it comes to critique, you're looking at, is something lacking here? Is it inconclusive? Is it only limited to one area? And what is the research design? Is it acceptable? These are the type of questions that you will ask. Again, in the colored box, you will see in this ambitious but flawed study by Jones and Wang. So, here is a critique. And in the second one, they're talking about similarities of two people. Here are two examples again about comparison and critique when you write literature reviews. Please read these two paragraphs and think about the whole concept of comparison and critique. And when you write your literature review and when you take a critical or evaluatory approach, these type of words become useful for you to use in your sentences. So try to find whether this type of words have been used in the examples and how they have been used. And finally, putting it all together in the analysis area, this is where you have done some summarizing, you have combined and synthesized some of the concepts, you have compared between two or more authors, and you have made some critical analysis to look at certain gaps. Then you will find a story coming through and talk about the different approaches, what they have spoken about the area of your research. Try to build a story out of this step by step, looking at what different authors or what different studies have been done in your research area. When you read your selected literature, you will find that the author is trying to build a story around those concepts. So with that, we have covered the third section, that is analysis.